What's up everyone, I'm Kel, Red Zone Rogue, and today we have another Force of Will deck tech video. Today we have another one of the Alice Origin Cluster starter deck upgrade guides going over Melgis. This deck is quite powerful and also, right now, at the time of filming, a good amount more expensive than any of the other decks in the Alice Origin Cluster. And with that said, this is an Alice Origin Cluster deck, meaning that all the cards in this deck are either from starter deck or the Alice Origin Cluster, because if you're a new starting player, just pick up the Melgis starter deck, and I'm like, hey, make this deck, but you have to buy all these really expensive cards from New Valhalla. It's kind of, dissuades a lot of new players, so I decided to focus only on the Alice Origin Cluster. If you bought a, Melgis starter deck and then a booster box, what is the best thing that you could possibly build? I do also want to shout out Happy Little Hug Factory before I get started. Those folks are awesome. They support this channel. I support them. They have a really good online service. They sell Force of Will singles and sealed product. They have Alice Origin 2 on pre-order right now. Starter decks and booster boxes. If you buy a starter deck with the booster box, you actually get like a $5 discount, which is pretty good. I do have an affiliate link in the description down below with links to said product, so check them out. Give them some love, and let's get started with this deck. So the first chunk of this video is going to be just, kind of like a standard deck tech, and then at the end, I'm going to go over all of the cards that I actually cut from the starter deck and kind of tell you why, if I haven't talked about them all already yet. And we're going to start off talking about, Melgis here. So a lot of the rulers from the Alice Origin Cluster are pretty similar, and you'll see that here if you watch the Faria deck, and you'll kind of see how they're a little bit similar. So on his ruler side, he's a ruler warrior. His name is Melgis. He has the Stranger 10 mechanic, and all of the Alice Origin Cluster rulers have that mechanic. It means you get to start the game with an additional 10 card Stranger deck that has Stranger Resonators in it. You can only have 2 of each Stranger Resonator, or a maximum of 2 of any given Stranger Resonator in your Stranger deck. You don't really draw from that deck unless a card tells you to. They're like meant to be very powerful, like bonus rewards. He has Judgment of double fire and a darkness. He has an Energize of a fire or a darkness. And then he says this giant line of text down here. Whenever a fire regalia enters the battlefield under your control, choose one. If the regalia is Levitine, and it will be Levitine, choose up to 2 instead. Choose a card from your Stranger deck at random and put it into your hand, or this card deals 500 damage to target player or J Resonator, or put a 700/100 Fire Warrior Resonator token with swiftness onto the field. At the end of turn, its controller banishes it, or you may pay 0 to do Judgment until end of turn. That was a lot of stuff. So basically, you either get to draw a card from your Stranger deck, or you make a 700/100 token that dies at the end of turn, or you can nug something for 500, which is also pretty good. Or you can make his Judgment free, which is also pretty good. What does he do on his ruler side? So he's been upgraded to a 7 Kings. It's a 1000/1000 with first strike. He has the same enter ability as Faria. Choose a card from your Stranger deck at random and put it into the field. So if you played Levitine, say on turn 3, with 2 will available to play the Levitine, and then maybe you deal 500 damage to something, and then you make the Judgment cost free, immediately Judgment, and then flip over the top card of the Stranger deck. That's pretty good value for like turn 3. He also has God's Art, Usurpation of the Flame King for 1 fire and a darkness. Banish a Resonator, draw 2 cards, choose a card from your Stranger deck at random, and put it onto the field. Yeah, so really good. Basically, Melgis helps you like flood the field with Resonators, and that's kind of what we want to do with this deck, and we want to back it up with a lot of like direct damage and powerful effects. So next, let's talk about that Stranger deck that I mentioned. For Melgis, I didn't have any singles here. I just picked 2 of all of the ones that I thought was, most optimal for this deck. First up, we have Asel, the Blazing Charger Stranger, 700/700 for 1 fire and 1 darkness. This is not a starter deck card. Resonators you control gain swiftness. Whenever a Resonator you control is put into the graveyard from the field, this card deals 200 damage to target player or J Resonator, and you can pay a fire to force target J Resonator to attack or block this turn, which is pretty cool. Giving all your Resonators swiftness is quite powerful, so it gives itself swiftness, just so you know. And anytime anything you have dies, you get to deal some damage. And then you can also force things to attack and block, which is pretty good. So yeah, we have 2 of those. Next up is a starter deck card. This is Koochoo Lane, the Hero in the Far Land. 1000/1000 for double fire and darkness. It's a Resonator hero with first strike and Bane, which is a pretty good combination. This card gains swiftness and precision as long as your life is 2,000 or less. So swiftness, precision, first strike, and bane. Yeah, that means he just can kill anything, which is good. And whenever this card attacks, your opponent discards a card. So just a really powerful, efficient beater. This is one of the ones you definitely want to see flip over with Melgis. And, you know, we run 2 of him. Next we have Shade. It's a 600/600 for 2 Resonator Spirit, you know, 1 of any, and a Darkness with Bane. Enter, your opponent banishes a Resonator. When this card is put into the graveyard from the field, your opponent banishes a Resonator. So just a really effective, you know, board presence. Comes into play. It's a 600/600 body with Bane, so it basically trades with everything unless it has, you know, first strike. And then it forces your opponent to banish stuff, which is quite good. And we have abilities to let us, you know, banish Shade, which would make our opponent banish stuff too. So, you know, we got some synergy there. Next up we have Red Wizard, one of the best red strangers in my opinion. 600/600 for a single fire. Enter, this card deals 600 damage to each Resonator your opponent controls. Yeah, it's like a one-sided board wipe, especially if your opponent doesn't have, you know, very big things. This is a pain in the butt. It's a huge pain in the butt. And then finally, we have Astima, the Fallen Angel of Desolation. I love the art in this card, some like OG Valhalla artwork, which is really sweet. Anyway, 1,000/1,000 for triple black. Resonator, Fallen Angel / Deity with Flying and Drain. At the beginning of each player's turn, that player banishes a non-Fallen Angel Resonator. This is quite powerful. This is not a starter deck card, and once again, we are running 2 of them. The Magic Stone deck, much like in my Faria video, has not really changed. And by that I mean I have not changed anything from it. I just kind of picked art that I like more. So we have Magic Stone of Scorched Bales. You know, I picked the OG Magic Stone of Scorched Bales. We have Ataractes Memoria, straight from the starter deck, and then Darkness Magic Stone and Fire Magic Stone. Once again, I really like this Vingolf art, so I chose to use the Vingolf art. So now we're on to the main deck. We're going to start off with our Regalia, Levitine. This is a pretty good one. It is a 2-drop fire and a darkness with Mythic, which means you can only have 1 on the field at a time. Your Dray Ruler gains Swiftness, which is pretty good, letting us able to attack with Melgis immediately. And you can rest it to produce 2 wills in any combination of fire and or darkness. Spend this only to play God's Art, Strangers, or Swords Art. So very, very similar to Excalibur from the Faria deck, and we of course are running a full playset of these. Next up is Guinevere the Jealous Queen, another starter deck card. If you didn't notice, you know, Levitine was also a starter deck card. 200/400 for a single fire. At one time, one of the best forcible cards ever made, and now that's still pretty good. You can rest her to banish a Resonator, draw 2 cards, then discard a card. So you can, you know, banish your Shade, draw 2 cards, discard a card, and then they have to banish something, you know, using the Shade's ability, which is pretty good. Or you can banish a Resonator that is going to die anyway, or anything like that. Guinevere is quite good. And you can pay a fire and rest her to give a Resonator you control 400/400 until end of turn. When it deals or it's dealt damage, its controller banishes it. So you can pump a Resonator, but it will die. And I do run, you know, a full playset of this, and I did opt to choose include one of my old school Guinevere's that is full art, which is pretty cool. I like Guinevere. Next up, we have another starter deck card, Percival the Fascinated by Holy Grail. 200/200 for a single fire. She's a Knight of the Round Table. Enter. Reveal the top 5 cards of your deck. You may put a Regalia or a Fire Resonator with cost 2 or less from among them into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order, and then you can banish her to deal 200 damage to a player or J Resonator. The card's fantastic. We're definitely running a full playset of her, and just being able to get any 2-drop Fire Resonator from from the top 5 cards of your deck, it's actually really good. Or being able to fish up Levitine, also really good. We definitely want a lot of our Resonators to be 2 or less, so we can have a lot of options and a lot of hits when we play this. The worst thing is playing Percival and then getting 5 cards that you can't pick. That's pretty rough. Next up, we have simultaneously the best card and the most expensive card in the deck. Probably one of the most expensive cards in the Alice Origin cluster currently. Shakti, the Red Eyes Swords Master. I only run 3 because I only have 3 copies. If you got 4, definitely run 4. But these are pretty expensive cards right now. I think at the time of this recording, most Shaktis are going for around 20 bucks. I was lucky to pick up this foil one for 20 bucks. So it's a 600/600 for 1 fire and 1 darkness. She's a Resonator of 5 heroes, and then she has some pretty cool abilities. So she says, for effects of Regalia you control, treat this card as a J Ruler. So Levitine, for example, says J Rulers you control have Swiftness. So Levitine would give her swiftness, which is pretty cool. But her second ability is, what makes her so good and it's so expensive. Whenever you play a sword art, copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. So she copies any sword art we play, and it can get explosive. Things can get ridiculous. I do need to pick up another copy of Shakti, but like I said, she's expensive and she's kind of hard to get. But if you got her, definitely play her because she's super good. Next up is the Darkest Fire Small Dragon, another non-starter deck card. I do run 3 of these, kind of like, in tune with Shakti, because I think the dragon is the little dragon on Shakti. It's a little buddy. So it's a 600/600 with flying for 1 fire and 1 darkness, which is pretty good. It says when this card is put into the graveyard from the field, destroy target damage resonator. So, we can put this into the graveyard with Guinevere, for example, to destroy one of our opponent's damage resonators. Got some synergy there. It also says whenever a card named Shakti, the Red Eye Swordsmaster, enters the field under your control, you may pay 400 life. If you do, put this from your graveyard into your hand. Pretty good. That's basically the reason why I'm running 3 of these and also 3 Shakti. If I went up to 4 Shakti, I'd probably go up to 4 of these. I'm not sure, but this card is quite good. Next up, we have Lancelot, the Knight of Mad Demon, and I am stoked to talk about this card again. This is one of my favorite cards of all time. There's a reason why my channel icon has been Lancelot for a while. This is one of these starter deck cards, but I chose to use the better artwork here. He is a Resonator Knight of the Round Table for double fire, 600/600 with swiftness. As you choose a card to attack, you must choose this card if able. So basically, he has to attack. Then he also says, when this card attacks, if his attack is 1,000 or more, he deals 700 damage to target Resonator. So if he's a big boy, then he's going to nug someone for 700, which is really good. And you can also pay a single fire to pump him plus 100 plus 0 until end of turn. And we have some other ways to pump him up so we can trigger that 1,000, attack 700 damage clause, which is, pretty good. 700 damage is kind of a lot. Next up is Blazer. This is not a starter deck card. Resonator Dragon, 1,000/1,000 for double fire and double darkness. He is flying. Enter. Target J Resonator your opponent controls loses all abilities until end of turn, then destroy it. If a J ruler was destroyed this way, the ruler your opponent controls loses all abilities until end of game. We're running 3 Blazer just because he's kind of a little expensive, not monetary wise, but a 4-drop is kind of a lot in this deck. But he's just a beating, man. Blazer just gets rid of anything. It's like your opponent has a threat, doesn't matter. Blazer deals with it. Opponent has like a really powerful J ruler, doesn't matter. Blazer deals with it. Quite good. Yeah, I like Blazer a lot. So those were the Resonators. Now we have the rest of the deck, starting off with Opening the Red Eyes. This card is really, really sweet. We don't really want too many of these in the deck. It is not a starter deck card, and it is a Shakti kind of like themed card, as you can kind of guess by the artwork here. It is a Chant Sword Art, and I think all of the chants in the deck are sword arts for the most part. There's 1 or 2 that aren't. But they, really benefit from having Levitine on the field. Being able to play this just right off of Levitine is quite good. So it has Quick Cast for 1 fire and a darkness. Target J Resonator gains plus 700/700 precision and first strike until end of turn. That's pretty good. If we play this on our Lancelot, it immediately will trigger its if it has 1,000 or over, attack, deal 700 damage clause, which is quite good. But it also says if it's Shakti, the Red Eye Swordmaster, put 7 +1/+1 counters on it, and it gains precision, first strike, and eternal until end of turn instead. That is insane. So it's like kind of like a permanent plus 700/700, but it also gains precision, first strike, and eternal until end of turn. And if you have Shakti out in the field, you get to do this twice because it's a sword art. Yeah, your Shakti will get like 1,400. Make it a 2,000. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And so, like I said, we do run 3 of these. We don't want too many of them because if we don't have any Resonators on the field, it doesn't really do anything. But it's still quite good. It's a big game, I would say. Next up, we have a Bloody Break. This is Melgis' signature removal spell. It is a chant sword art for a 1 fire and a darkness with quick cast. Destroy target J Resonator, which is pretty good. Being able to destroy anything, pretty good, including your opponent's J Ruler. If this card was awakened, choose a card from your stranger deck at random, put it into your hand. This is a starter deck card. We are running all 4 of them because it's just premium removal. Next up, we have Awakening of the Flame King. I do run a full play set of these. This card is quite good, especially with Shakti on the field. Most of the sword arts are quite good with Shakti on the field. It is a pretty expensive one. Double fire and a darkness. Champ, sword art, quick cast. Choose one. This card deals 800 damage to target player, or target player banishes a resonator, or this card deals 400 damage to each J resonator your opponent controls. You may put a fire resonator with total cost 3 or less from your hand onto the field. So being able to hit your opponent for 1600 if you have Shakti on the field is pretty good. You know, that's almost half their life. That's a lot of damage. Or being able to deal, 800 damage to everything your opponent's control and then get 2 resonators with total cost 3 or less on the field. Also quite good. Yeah, Awakening of the Flame King is a really good finisher for the deck. And then finally, our only non-sword art card is Thunder. Thunder's just super efficient. 500 damage to any target for a single fire will. It has quick cast. Yeah, I run a full playset of Thunders, and I definitely got some of my old school Thunders in there. I just love this card. It's just super versatile. You can deal it to a resonator. You can deal it to your opponent's face. Being able to deal it to your opponent's face is actually quite good. There are games where I've sandbagged a couple Thunders and just, oh, they didn't block. Well, you're dead. Yeah, Thunder's cool. So that was my Melgis deck. The only changes I would make is if you got a Shakti, I would add in another Shakti because it's so good. These are the cards that I cut from the starter deck. We cut Volga the Fire King because he's a little slow and he's not like super useful in the deck. When he dies, you get to search your deck for Levitine, but yeah, it's not super good. I like Blazer instead of Volga here, and some other stuff too. But yeah, we cut Volga. We cut the Darkest Fire Dragon. I like the Little Dragon more than the Darkest Fire Dragon. I don't really like cards that synergize with non-ruler cards unless they are good by themselves. And he's like okay by himself. He gets swiftness if you control Volga. And we cut Volga. So yeah, we're cutting the Darkest Fire Dragon as well for more efficient cards. Like I said, we want efficiency in this deck. And these are all 3-drops. We don't want a lot of 3-drops. We want a lot of 2-drops. We want those little dragons and we want the Shaktis. Speaking of 2-drops, this is a 2-drop, but once again, it's kind of a... it leeches off of some of the other cards in the deck. It's a 400 for 2, which isn't a good rate these days. And it costs less if you control Lancelot. And then it just gives a Resonator 400 0 until end of turn. There are better things we can be doing than playing... What's this? Hector? Yeah, than Hector. Next is Demon Flame. You can definitely keep Demon Flame in the deck. I think Demon Flame is actually fantastic, but I cut it for Thunder. I like Thunder being able to hit your opponent's face, basically. Demon Flame deals 500 damage to a Resonator, or you can destroy a damaged Resonator. But being able to hit your opponent's face in a semi-aggressive deck, I think is actually quite important. If you're playing like more of a mid-rangey type strategy, having Demon Flame in the deck is pretty good because then you can blow up their big guys. But I'd rather just hit him in the face with this deck. And then we have the Lancelots that I cut for the better art Lancelot. We have the one Guinevere that I cut for the, the Guinevere with the foiling that I had. Once again, Magic Stone of Scorched Bells. I just cut these for the better art, or at least my favorite art. And then finally we have some of the Strangers that I cut. This big dude, Regulus, the King of Volcano, he's not bad. 1,000 for 3 with swiftness whenever he's dealt damage. He does that much damage to your opponent. That's not too bad, but I like the ones that I picked better, basically. I'd rather have Estima, the 1,000 flying with Drain that, kills a thing every single turn over this one. And then we have the Amon, the Demon Prince of Conspiracy. This is kind of a weird one. It's a 0/0 for a single black. When it enters the field, you got to pay some life, and then it has that many counters on it. And then you get to draw a card for each 700 life you put. So you have to pay 1,400 life to draw 2 cards, and it's only a 1,400. I'd rather just, not do that. Play something else. It's still not bad. It's not a terrible card, but it's a pretty risky card. Maybe if you have some way to leverage your life or something like that, but we don't have that in this deck. And for that reason, it got cut. And that's that, everyone. That is my Melgis Alice Origin Cluster Starter Deck Upgrade Guide. I hope you liked the video. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Let me know if you like these type of videos, if you like these upgrade guides. I do plan on doing these for every single Alice Origin Cluster starter deck. So, when Alice Origin Cluster 2 comes out, I'm going to be doing it for, I was going to say Faria. I already did it for Faria. I'm going to be doing it for Priscia and Valentina. Also, I have a Lenneth deck coming up that is an Alice Origin Cluster only Lenneth deck. I'm going to be doing that for Machina as well. So yeah, stay tuned for some more Force of Will content. Like, comment, subscribe. It really helps the channel, helps boost my visibility so more people can see sweet Force of Will stuff. And yeah, I'll see y'all next time. Have a good one all. I'll see you later.